The transport ship shook as it docked with the station, gripped her seat and tried not to look scared. She was born on a peaceful world of scholars and scientists. Her blue skin and 4 arms marked her as different from most species on this military station. But she had trained hard. She had passed every test. She belonged here. The airlock opened with a hiss, grabbed her bag and stepped onto Horizon's edge for the first time. The station was enormous. Soldiers from a dozen species walked through the wide corridors, saw the tall reptilian with their thick scales and massive claws. She saw the insect-like clicking their mandibles as they talked. She saw species she could not even name. But she did not see many humans. Had read about humans in her xenobiology classes. They were a young species from a small blue planet called Earth. They lived short lives, maybe 80 or 90 years. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. Their bodies were soft and broke easily. Most species in the coalition considered them weak. She wondered why they even bothered joining the military. An officer met her at the processing center. His name was Commander, and he stood 8 feet tall. His yellow eyes looked down at her with something like boredom. "You are assigned to Squad 7, he said. His voice was deep like thunder. "Your sergeant is a human. Try not to die in your first week." Blinked, a human sergeant. That seemed strange. Humans were rare in leadership positions. Most of them served as support staff or technicians. She found Squad 7's barracks on the 3rd level. The room was simple. Bunks lined the walls. A few soldiers were already inside, checking their gear or resting. And there, sitting alone on a bunk near the window, was the human. He was not impressive to look at. Average height, brown skin, black hair cut short. He wore the same gray uniform as everyone else, but noticed the scars on his hands and the old mark that crossed his jaw like a pale river. His name tag read, SGT Taiho. He was cleaning a knife when she entered. His movements were slow and careful, like he had done this 1,000 times before. He did not look up. "You are the new," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, Sergeant, my name is." "I know." He held the knife up to the light, checking the edge. "Find a bunk, gear inspection in 2 hours." That was all. No welcome speech. No introduction to the team. Found an empty bunk and began unpacking her things. Over the next few days, she watched Ho carefully. She could not help it. He was so different from what she expected. The other species on the station were loud and confident. They boasted about their strength, they talked about their speed. But Ho was quiet. He spoke only when necessary. He ate alone. He trained alone. But the way he moved was strange. Noticed it during combat drills. Ho was not fast like the or strong like the, but he was always in the right place. When an attack came, he was not there. When an opening appeared, he struck. His body seemed to know things his mind had not yet seen. She asked another recruit about him, a named who had been on the station for 3 months. The human made a clicking sound that meant something like laughter. "He is nothing special. Humans are soft. They break easily. He will not last long." But was not sure. There was something in Ho's eyes, something old and patient and very, very tired. One night the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed across the barracks. A voice on the speakers announced that pirates had boarded a cargo shuttle docked at the station. All combat squads were ordered to respond. His hearts pounded, both of them. This was real. This was not a drill. She grabbed her weapon and ran to the staging area. Squad 7 assembled quickly. Commander was there, barking orders. His massive tail swung with anger. "The pirates are well armed," he said. "We will breach the shuttle and eliminate all hostiles. Stay in formation. Watch each other's backs." His hands shook as she checked her rifle. She had trained for this moment for 2 years, but training was different from real combat. In training, nobody actually died. She looked at Ho. He was checking his weapons with calm hands. His face showed nothing, no fear, No excitement, just focus. Something made her walk over to him. Maybe she wanted comfort. Maybe she wanted to understand. "Sergeant," she said, her voice was smaller than she wanted. "Is this your first fight?" Ho looked up. For a moment, something moved behind his eyes. Something that had seen things she could not imagine. Something that had survived things that should have killed it. Then he smirked. It was a small expression, just a slight curve of his lips, but it changed his whole face. Suddenly, he did not look tired or bored. He looked like a predator that had just woken up. "First today, ma'am," he said. Did not know what to say. She stood there, frozen, as Ho finished checking his gear and stood up. "Stay behind me when we breach," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Do not freeze, do not think, just react. Your body knows more than your mind." "How do you know?" He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since she arrived. "Because humans have been fighting since before we could walk upright. We were not the fastest, not the strongest, not the biggest, but we survived. We always survived." He walked toward the airlock where the squad was gathering. "War is not about being the best," he said over his shoulder. "It is about being the last one standing." Followed him, her hands still shook, but somewhere deep inside her, a small flame of courage began to burn. She did not understand humans yet, but she was beginning to think that maybe everyone else was wrong about them. Maybe they were not weak at all. Maybe they were something else entirely. The airlock opened. The shuttle waited beyond, dark and full of enemies. Ho stepped through first, his weapon raised, his body ready, and followed into her first real fight. The cargo shuttle was dark. Emergency lights blinked red along the floor, casting strange shadows on the metal walls. The air smelled like smoke and something else, something sharp and metallic. Blood realized. The air smelled like blood. Squad 7 moved through the airlock in single file. Commander took the lead, his massive body filling the corridor. The scales were thick enough to stop most weapons. He was a living shield. Ho was behind him, then the rest of the squad. They found the first body 10 meters in. A station guard slumped against the wall. His chest had been opened by some kind of energy weapon. His eyes stared at nothing. Felt her stomach twist. She had seen death before, but only in pictures, only in training videos. This was different, this was real. "Keep moving," Ho said quietly. His voice was steady. "Do not look, just move." She obeyed, one foot in front of the other. Her rifle felt heavy in her hands. They reached a junction where the corridor split into 3 directions. Commander held up a fist. Everyone stopped. "The pirates are in the cargo bay," he said. His voice was a low rumble. "We split into 3 teams, surround and eliminate." It was a good plan, simple and direct the way. But before anyone could move, the walls exploded. Did not see them coming. One moment the corridor was empty. The next moment figures were pouring out of hidden panels in the walls. Pirates, dozens of them, more than intelligence had predicted. They were mostly fast and vicious, their insect bodies moving in blurs of motion. But there were others too. Species did not recognize, all of them armed, all of them shooting. The corridor became chaos. Energy bolts flew in every direction. Someone screamed. A soldier fell, smoke rising from a hole in his neck. Another went down, then another. Commander roared and charged forward, swinging his massive claws. He killed 3 pirates in seconds, but more kept coming. Too many. "Fall back," shouted. "Fall back to the airlock." The squad began to retreat, fired blindly, not even sure if she was hitting anything. Her hearts pounded so hard she could hear them in her ears. But Ho did not retreat. She saw him move forward, not running, not charging, just walking, calm and steady like he was taking a stroll through a garden. A pirate lunged at him from the left, Ho without looking. His knife appeared in his hand. He cut once and the pirate fell. Another came from the right. Ho grabbed the attacker's arm, twisted, and used the body as a shield against incoming fire. Then he dropped the body and kept moving. Watched in disbelief, she had never seen anything like it. Ho did not fight like the with raw power and force. He did not fight like the with speed and aggression. He fought like water flowing through cracks, like shadows sliding between lights. He used everything around him. He kicked a fallen crate into a group of enemies, then shot them while they stumbled. He grabbed a pipe from the wall and used it to block a blade, then broke the attacker's knee with a single kick. Every movement had a purpose. No energy was wasted. No motion was unnecessary. A massive pirate charged him. This one was huge, almost as big as it swung a heavy blade at Ho's head. Ho ducked under the swing. His hand shot out and struck the pirate's throat. The giant made a choking sound and dropped the blade. Ho caught it before it hit the ground and drove it into the pirate's chest. The whole thing took less than 2 seconds. Someone grabbed Ho's arm. She spun, ready to fight, but it was another human, younger than Ho, with a friendly face and medical supplies strapped to his vest. His name tag read, CPL, DAE Sung. "Stay behind him," Sung said. He was pulling her forward toward Ho, not away from the fight. "Trust me, it is the safest place on this shuttle." But Commander said to retreat. "Is not human," Sung smiled, though his eyes were serious. "He does not understand. We do not retreat, we adapt." They followed Ho deeper into the shuttle. The human sergeant moved from corridor to corridor, clearing each one with terrible efficiency. Bodies fell behind him like leaves in autumn. Started to understand. Ho was not ignoring the danger. He was using it. Every attack that came at him became a weapon in his hands. Every enemy that fell gave him a new tool, a new shield, a new angle. This was not mindless violence. This was something older, something that had been refined over thousands and thousands of years. 11 minutes, that was how long it took. When the last pirate fell, counted the bodies. 14. Ho had killed 14 enemies by himself. He stood in the center of the cargo bay, breathing hard. Blood ran down his arm from a wound she had not even seen him take. He looked at it with mild annoyance, like it was a mosquito bite. Sung was already there, pulling out bandages. "You need stitches," he said. Later, Ho looked around the bay, checking for threats. When he was satisfied, some of the tension left his shoulders. Commander arrived with what remained of the squad. They stared at the carnage with wide yellow eyes. For once, he had nothing to say. Walked over to Ho. Her legs felt weak. Her hands were still shaking. "How?" she asked. It was the only word she could manage. "How did you do that?" Ho sat down on a crate and let Sung work on his arm. He looked tired now. Old. Like the fight had drained something from him that would not come back. "Humans have been fighting since before we had words for it," he said. "When we lived in caves, we fought animals bigger and faster than us. When we built cities, we fought each other. We never stopped." He flexed his injured hand, testing the bandage. "War is in our bones," he said. "It is in our blood. Every human alive carries the memories of 1,000 ancestors who survived because they learned to fight. We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest, but we are still here." He looked at. His eyes were dark pools that held depths she could not measure. "That counts for something." Stood there for a long moment. She thought about her own people, who had known peace for 10,000 years. She thought about how soft they had become, how comfortable. And she wondered what humans could teach them about survival. "Thank you," she said finally, "for keeping me alive." Ho nodded once. "Thank me by learning. Next time you fight beside me, not behind me." It was not a request, it was a promise. And standing in that blood-soaked cargo bay, surrounded by the bodies of enemies, made a decision. She would learn whatever it took. She would learn to fight like a human. 3 weeks passed after the shuttle incident, trained harder than she ever had before. She ran until her legs burned. She practiced combat drills until her arms ached. She studied human fighting techniques from old recordings. Ho noticed. He did not say anything, but sometimes he would correct her stance or show her a better way to hold her weapon. Small lessons, quiet guidance. She was getting better. One evening, a message arrived for Ho. A request from someone on the station happened to be nearby when he read it. She saw his face tighten with something like discomfort. "Problem?" she asked. "A researcher wants to interview me." He deleted the message. I said no. But the researcher did not give up. Her name was Dr. Myra, and she was like. She had blue skin and silver hair, and the patient eyes of someone who spent their life studying difficult questions. She found Ho in the training room the next day. She found him in the mess hall the day after that. She was polite but persistent. "I am writing a study on human integration in the coalition military," she explained. "Your perspective would be valuable." "No. Just 1 hour, that is all I ask." "No." On the 5th day, intervened. She did not know why exactly. Maybe she was curious. Maybe she thought Ho needed to talk to someone who was not a soldier. "Do the interview," she said. "I will come with you." Ho looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. 1 hour, he said, no more. They met in Dr. Myra's office, a small room filled with data screens and old books. Real books made of paper, had never seen so many in one place. Dr. Myra had prepared tea. She poured 3 cups and sat down across from Ho. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know this is not comfortable for you. You have 1 hour. Dr. Myra nodded and activated her recording device. "Let us start with something simple. How long have you been a soldier?" 18 years. "You joined young." "I joined when I was old enough to hold a rifle." Dr. Myra made a note. "On Earth, I understand there is something called mandatory military service in some nations. Was that why you joined?" Ho shook his head. "I joined because there was nothing else for me. My family was poor. The military offered food, shelter, and purpose." "And you found that purpose in fighting." "I found it in surviving." The interview continued. Dr. Myra asked about Ho's training, his early missions, his experiences with other species. He answered in short sentences, giving only what was necessary. But then Dr. Myra changed direction. "I have studied human history," she said. "It is different from other species." Ho's eyes narrowed slightly. "Different how?" "Most species in the coalition developed on stable worlds. They faced challenges, yes, but nothing compared to what humans endured. Your planet was trying to kill you from the beginning." She pulled up an image on her screen. A planet covered in blue oceans and green land and white clouds, beautiful from a distance. "Earth," she said, 70% covered in water you cannot drink, temperatures that swing from burning hot to freezing cold, diseases that evolved specifically to destroy human bodies, natural disasters that killed millions." Ho looked at the image. His face did not change. "And yet," Dr. Myra continued, "humans did not just survive. You spread to every corner of your world, deserts, frozen wastelands, mountains, jungles, anywhere there was ground, humans found a way to live." "We are stubborn," Ho said. It might have been a joke. "You are more than stubborn." Dr. Myra leaned forward. "You are adapted for suffering. Your bodies produce chemicals that help you ignore pain. Your minds can override your survival instincts when necessary. You heal faster than most species. You can eat almost anything organic." She paused. "And you have been at war with yourselves for your entire existence." The room grew quiet. Watched Ho's face. Something was happening behind his eyes. Memories, maybe, old wounds opening. "Tell me about the wars," Dr. Myra said softly. "Not the ones you fought, the ones your species fought, among yourselves." Ho was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, heavier. There was a period in our history, about 300 years ago, we call it the 20th century. He looked at the image of Earth. In 100 years, humans killed over 200 million of their own kind. Felt her heart stop. 200 million, that was more than the population of her entire home world. Not through alien invasion, Ho continued. Not through plague or disaster, we did it to ourselves. Wars over land, wars over ideas, wars over resources, wars over nothing at all. Dr. Myra's hands trembled slightly. How did you survive such a thing? We learned. Ho's voice was flat. We built weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. Then we built weapons that could destroy the whole planet. And when we looked at what we had created, we realized we had two choices: learn to control our nature or die. He stood up and walked to the window. Stars filled the darkness beyond. We chose to live, but the instinct never went away. The violence, the rage, the need to fight, it is always there under the surface. He turned to face them. The difference is that now we pointed at something else, at threats to our species, at enemies who would harm innocents. We take all that darkness inside us and we use it to protect instead of destroy. Understood now. She understood why the other species feared humans. It was not their strength or their speed or their technology. It was their capacity for violence. The knowledge that inside every human was a monster that had been fighting for 1,000,000 years. A monster that had killed its own kind by the hundreds of millions and somehow kept going. You asked me why I fight, Ho said to Dr. Myra. I fight because if I do not, the darkness has nowhere to go. I fight because it is what I was made for. And I fight because I remember what happens when humans have no one to fight but each other. He sat back down. We are not the peaceful species you wish we were, he said. We are killers who learn to care, monsters who chose to be human. Every day is a choice, and every day most of us choose right. The recording device beeped softly. The hour was over. Dr. Myra turned it off with shaking hands. Thank you, she whispered. I think I understand now. Ho stood to leave. At the door he paused. Do not pity us, he said. We do not want pity, we want purpose. Give a human something worth fighting for and they will move mountains. Give them nothing and they will tear themselves apart. He left without another word. Sat in the quiet room looking at the image of Earth still glowing on the screen. Such a small planet, such a dangerous people. And somehow, against all odds, they had reached the stars. She wondered what that said about the universe. She wondered what it said about the future. The jungle planet was called 4. It was a green hell of thick trees, poisonous plants, and rain that never stopped. The coalition had built an outpost here 3 years ago. Now that outpost was surrounded. Stood on the wall and looked out at the enemy camp. The Dominion had brought 2,000 soldiers. They filled the jungle like a dark tide, their fires burning through the night. Inside the outpost, 300 coalition troops waited. The math was simple. They were outnumbered almost 7-1. We should surrender, Commander said. He stood in the command center, his massive body tense with frustration. The Dominion offers terms. Lay down weapons. Submit to occupation. No one dies. The human general did not look at him. Her name was Boram. She was 60 years old with silver hair and a face like carved stone. She walked with a limp from an old wound that had never healed properly. They said she had been retired 3 times. Each time she came back. No, she said. His tail slammed against the floor. You are being foolish. We cannot win this fight. We do not need to win. Boram pulled up a map on the tactical display. The fleet is 3 days away. We hold until they arrive. 3 days against 2,000 enemies. Yes. Made a sound of disgust. Humans and their pride, you will get us all killed. Boram turned to face him. Her eyes were cold like winter ice. "Commander, you are welcome to surrender yourself. Take whoever wishes to join you. Walk out there and submit to the Dominion." She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "But I am staying, and so is every human on this base." There were 17 humans in the outpost. Ho was one of them. Sung was another. And there was a young private named who had only finished training 2 months ago. Her hands shook when she held her rifle. Found Ho on the eastern wall that night. The rain was falling hard, and the jungle was full of sounds she did not recognize. "I want to stay," she said. Ho looked at her. "You are not human." "No, but I am part of this squad, and I want to understand." He was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. "Stay close to me, do what I say, and if I tell you to run, you run." The attack came at dawn. The Dominion did not waste time with strategy. They simply charged, wave after wave of soldiers rushing toward the walls. The coalition defenders fired until their weapons overheated, but still, the enemy kept coming. The first day was the longest of life. She fought beside Ho on the wall, shooting at shadows that moved through the rain. Her arms ached. Her eyes burned. Twice, enemies reached the wall and she had to fight hand to hand. By sunset, 20 coalition soldiers were dead. The Dominion had lost 200, but they had more to spare. That night the humans did not rest. Ho gathered them in the armory. Boram was there, her face gray with exhaustion but her eyes still burning. "We cannot hold the walls for 3 days," she said, "so we changed the game." She outlined a plan. Small teams would leave the outpost at night. They would move through the jungle, hit Dominion supply lines, destroy equipment, kill officers, make the enemy scared to sleep. "Psychological warfare," Ho explained too. "Humans invented it. If you cannot beat your enemy with strength, you beat them with fear." The raids began that night. Went with Ho and 2 other humans. They moved through the jungle like ghosts, avoiding patrols, leaving no tracks. Ho showed her how to set traps using vines and fallen branches. Simple traps, deadly traps. They found a Dominion supply tent and burned it. They found a communication array and destroyed it. They found an officer sleeping in his command post and left his body for his soldiers to find in the morning. By dawn, the Dominion camp was in chaos. Soldiers fired at shadows. Officers screamed at each other. Fear spread like poison through their ranks. The second day was easier. The Dominion attacked again, but their hearts were not in it. They had expected an easy victory. They had not expected this. That night, Young broke down. Found her crying behind the medical tent. The girl's whole body shook with sobs. Her rifle lay in the mud beside her. "I cannot do this," whispered. "I am not brave like the others. I am scared. I am so scared." Sung appeared. He sat down beside without speaking. He did not tell her to stop crying. He did not tell her she was being weak. He just sat there, present and patient until her tears slowed. Then he said, "Do you know what courage is?" Shook her head. "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being terrified and doing it anyway." He put a hand on her shoulder. "Every human in this outpost is scared. Every single one. We just learn not to let fear make our decisions." "How?" "Practice," he smiled gently. "A million years of practice." The next morning was back on the wall. Her hands still shook, but she fought. The third day was the hardest. The Dominion commander was desperate now. He threw everything at the outpost. Vehicles, heavy weapons, elite soldiers. The walls crumbled in 3 places. Coalition defenders fell by the dozen. Ho fought like something from ancient legend. He appeared wherever the line was breaking, plugging gaps with his body, buying time with his blood. By noon, he had been wounded 4 times. He did not stop. Boram stood in the center of the courtyard, directing the defense. A piece of shrapnel had opened her cheek to the bone. She ignored it. "Hold," she said through the radio. Her voice was calm. "Hold a little longer, help is coming." At sunset, the sky filled with ships. Coalition reinforcements dropped through the clouds like falling stars. Transports and gunships and heavy cruisers. The Dominion army looked up and saw death descending. They ran. Watched them flee into the jungle. 2,000 soldiers who had believed victory was certain. Now they ran from the remnants of a force 1/7 their size. The outpost had held. Of the 300 defenders, 187 survived. Of the 17 humans, 11 were still breathing. Was one of them. Ho sat against a broken wall, letting Sung patch his wounds. He looked like he had been through a meat grinder, but he was alive. Sat down beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. How, she finally asked. How did you hold? The numbers were impossible. Ho laughed. It was a rough sound, tired and raw. Humans do not know when to quit, he said. It is a design flaw. Sometimes it kills us. He looked at the reinforcement ships landing in the courtyard, at the medics rushing to help the wounded, at standing tall with her rifle, exhausted but unbroken. Sometimes it saves everyone else. Boram walked over. She looked at Ho, then at. You fought well, she said for someone who is not human. Did not know what to say. Boram smiled. It softened her stone face. Maybe that is the point, she said. Humanity is not about what you are. It is about what you choose to be. She walked away to coordinate with the reinforcements. Sat in the rain and thought about those words, about choice, about courage, about what it meant to be human in a universe full of monsters. And she realized that maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to understand. 1 year had passed since the siege of 4. Stood before a mirror in her quarters aboard the Coalition flagship Eternal Dawn. Her dress uniform was perfectly pressed. Her medals gleamed against the blue fabric. Her 4 hands were steady for the first time she could remember. Today she would be promoted. Today she would become something new. The ceremony was held in the great hall of the flagship. Thousands of beings filled the space. Dignitaries from across the galaxy. Officers from every coalition species. Reporters with recording devices, ready to broadcast to 100 worlds. Walked to the stage alone. Each step felt like a dream. She had changed in the past year. She had trained with humans, learned their techniques, studied their history. She had become something the Coalition had never seen before, a who fought like a human, a scholar who carried a warrior's heart. They called her the human specialist now. She taught other species how to think like Earth's children, how to adapt, how to endure, how to turn weakness into strength. She looked out at the crowd and saw familiar faces. Ho was there standing near the front. He wore a captain's uniform now. His scars had faded slightly, but his eyes were the same, watchful, patient, old. Sung stood beside him, Chief Medical Officer of the Second Fleet. He smiled and gave her a small wave. General Boram sat in the front row. The wound on her cheek had healed into a thin white line. She nodded once when eyes found her. And in the back, almost hidden in the crowd, saw the young private who had cried in the rain was now a sergeant. Her hands no longer shook. Her eyes held the quiet confidence of someone who had faced the worst and survived. The admiral called to the podium. She walked forward, accepted her new rank insignia, and turned to face the assembly. I am supposed to give a speech, she said. Her voice carried through the great hall. I am supposed to talk about duty and honor and service to the Coalition. She paused. But I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about humans. The crowd murmured. This was not the standard ceremony speech. 1 year ago, I arrived at a military station expecting to find legendary warriors. Instead, I found a quiet human sergeant who cleaned his knife like it was the most natural thing in the world. She looked at Ho. I asked him if he had fought before. He smirked and said it was his first fight that day. A few laughs rippled through the audience, did not smile. I did not understand then. I thought humans were weak, limited, inferior to most species in the coalition. She let the words hang in the air. I was wrong. She stepped forward, closer to the edge of the stage. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. A could break a human in half with one arm. Humans are not the fastest. A can move 3 times quicker than human reflexes can track. Humans do not live the longest. Most species here will outlive their human friends by centuries. She spread her forearms wide. But humans carry something the rest of us have forgotten. Something we lost when we became civilized, when we became comfortable, when we stopped fighting for every single breath. Her voice rose. They carry the memory of struggle. 10,000 generations of ancestors who fought against predators and disease and starvation and each other. Every human alive is the descendant of survivors, winners, fighters who refuse to die. She pointed to the image of Earth displayed on the great screen behind her. That little blue planet tried to kill them in 1,000 different ways, and they conquered it, not through strength, not through speed, through pure, stubborn, relentless persistence. She lowered her arm. Humans do not fight because they want to win. They fight because they refuse to lose. And in a galaxy that has grown soft, that has forgotten what it means to truly struggle. She looked at Ho again. He met her eyes and nodded. That makes them invaluable. The great hall was silent. Thousands of beings sat motionless, listening. I am not human, said. I will never be human, but I have learned from them. I have seen what they are capable of when pushed to the edge, and I believe that their example can make all of us stronger. She straightened her uniform. We face threats that would destroy everything we have built, enemies who do not believe in mercy or peace. And when those enemies come, they will not care how fast we can run or how strong we are. Her voice hardened. They will care that we do not stop. They will care that we get up every time we fall. They will care that we fight until there is nothing left to fight with, and then we fight some more. She raised her fist. That is the human way, and today I'm proud to carry it forward. The applause started slowly, a few hands clapping in the front rows, then more. Then the whole hall erupted in thunder. Stood on the stage, letting the sound wash over her. She had said what needed to be said. Now the work would begin. After the ceremony, she found Ho on the observation deck. He stood alone, looking out at the stars. The same pose she had seen 100 times before. Good speech, he said. I meant every word. He was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a knife. The same knife he had been cleaning when she first arrived at Horizon's edge. This belonged to my grandfather, he said. He carried it through 3 wars on Earth. He gave it to my father. My father gave it to me. He held it out to her. Now I am giving it to you. Stared at the blade. It was simple and old and worn from use, but she understood what it meant. It was not just a weapon, it was a legacy. I cannot take this, she said. It is your family's history. You are my family now. Ho pressed the knife into her hand. That is how it works. Blood does not make family. Choice does. Struggle does. Standing beside someone when everything is trying to kill you does. His fingers closed around the handle. It was warm from his grip. Thank you, she whispered. Ho smiled. Not his usual smirk, but something softer, something real. Do not thank me, just pass it on someday, to someone who needs it. A young recruit approached them hesitantly. He was barely old enough to serve, his scales still bright with youth. His eyes were wide with nervousness. Sir, he said to Ho, is it true what they say about humans, that you have been fighting since the beginning? Ho turned to face the young soldier. He considered the question for a long moment. Son, he said, humans have been fighting since we climbed down from the trees, and we will keep fighting until there is nothing left worth protecting. He clapped the recruit on the shoulder. Now, you ready for your first patrol? The recruit straightened. Yes, sir. Ho smirked, that old familiar smirk that promised storms and survival and something worth believing in. Good, let us see what you are made of. He walked toward the exit, the recruit following. Watched them go. She held the knife in her hand and felt the weight of generations. Outside the window, the stars burned in the darkness, a galaxy full of wonders and dangers and futures not yet written. And somewhere among those stars humans were fighting, as they always had, as they always would. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the fastest, but because they refused to be anything less than survivors. Smiled and slipped the knife into her belt. She had work to do. The legacy continued.